welcome back to another Diablo 4 build video. Today we have a Barbarian build, and I'm calling it the Earthcracker build. Now real quick, before we get into the build, I wanted to explain some of the aspects and some of the aspects that you'll want to have on this build. This will be a level 1 to 50 build. Obviously I'm only level 56, and so I don't have all of them on because I ran out of materials, but I did still want to push out this build. So just know that the demonstration of the build that's probably playing right now may not have the full potential that this build has. So to go into the ones that we do have right now, we have attacking enemies with a basic skill increases the damage of your next core skill cast by 5% up to 30%. That one helps, obviously, with our damage. You have a 13% increased critical strike chance against injured enemies, which are enemies that are below 35% health. While you are healthy, you gain 26% increased crowd control duration. That's massive because we do a ton of stunning in this build. So having that crowd control duration is massive. The most important one for this entire build is while Call of the Ancients is on your action bar, damaging enemies with Leap, Upheaval, or Whirlwind have up to an 80% chance to summon an Ancient to perform the same skill. That is huge. We have two of those abilities, Leap and Upheaval. Now, really quick before we go any further, I want to mention that I focused so much on the damaging aspects of this build, I completely forgot about the survivability. So I did want to point out some of the survivability ones that you do want to pick up for sure, because this is a super squishy build. We're not generating a crazy amount of fortify, we don't have a ton of barriers, we don't even have a ton of life still. I focused on crowd control and damage. So some of the ones that you absolutely want. Leap creates an earthquake that deals damage. It doesn't do a lot, but that's not what we're after. Over 4 seconds while standing in earthquake, you gain 10% increased damage reduction. That one is huge. Also, you heal for 18 life per second for each close enemy up to 104 life per second. That one is huge, and I really wished I could put that on right now before we did the whole showcase and all this and that. And I do want to mention, you want to put that on an amulet. As it says here, if you put it on an amulet, the power is increased by 50%. So you'll absolutely want to put that on your amulet. Now some of the other ones, right here, becoming injured while crowd control grants you unstoppable for 4 seconds. This effect has a 24-second cooldown. That one would be so helpful because we don't have unstoppable in nothing here. We don't have unstoppable. So an unstoppable, if you don't know, is it makes it to where you're CC immune. And once again, you'll get a 50% damage or power increase if you put that on an amulet. Obviously, you'll have to pick which one of these you want on your amulet. Now, some of these other ones are for damage and cooldown. Right here we have killing an enemy while berserking has a 40% chance to grant 18% increased cooldown reduction to your brawling skills. We have two brawling skills, Leap and Rallying Cry. Or not Rallying Cry, what is this? War Cry. Excuse me. So I just wanted to let y'all know some of the ones that you will want. If you're still struggling with that, if that's not enough survivability, there are some, like right here, if you were to put the one where if you damage elites you gain a barrier, you could pair that with this that says deal 24% increased damage while you have a barrier active. You'll absolutely want to put that on a two-handed weapon because you get a 100% power increase, which would be roughly almost 50% damage bonus. So that's super big. Now we'll get into the rest of the aspects here. I just wanted to let y'all know I don't have all of them. The showcase is a little lackluster composed to what it could be. So let's get into the rest of these. After gaining the final damage bonus from the key passive Walking Arsenal, you automatically cast Ground Stomp and gain 44 Fury. This cannot happen more than once every 30 seconds. We don't have a great way to generate Fury, so we're taking this for that 44% or 44 Fury generation. But we also pair that with our amulet. Ground Stomp creates an earthquake, damaging enemies for 1400 physical damage over 4 seconds. While standing in an earthquake, you deal 18% increased damage. We don't even have Ground Stomp on our ability bar, so whenever this procs, and it procs pretty much every 30 seconds, you'll just be getting that huge damage bonus. Two other ones that just add to the build from stuff that we do not have access to is whenever you deal direct damage while berserking, which we have a ton of berserking in this particular build, inflict 20% of the base damage dealt as additional bleeding damage over 5 seconds. That one is huge. The additional is really what gives this such a great thing. It's not that 20% of your damage is converted to bleeding, it puts an extra 20% damage of what you just did as bleeding damage. And to pair with that, we have a lucky hit. Direct damage against a bleeding enemy has up to a 25% chance to stun them for 2 seconds. So we get extra bleeding and we get CC from bleeding, and we don't have anything else that'll give us bleeding. So just for berserking all the time, which we will be, we get a huge damage bonus and some CC. That's just super awesome. If a core skill hits 5 or more enemies, 25% of the resource cost is refunded. I know this one is a unique ring. I do believe you get it from killing Lilith, so I could be wrong, but basically if you've beaten the story, you should have this ring. We don't have a ton of abilities to give us resource generation. So having that 24 or 25% resource cost basically reduction is huge. We have, let's see, after swapping weapons 6 times, gain 195 Fortify. I've seen that with different numbers. That one helps a ton with survivability. And honestly, if you really wanted to, you could change up some of the passives in this build to make it more survivable, but honestly, with this setup the way it is, we do have plenty enough survivability, you just have to be careful. So it does require some skill to play this build. Now, first ability we take is Lunging Strikes. Lunge forward and strike an enemy for damage. Enhanced Lunging Strike. Lunging Strike deals 30% increased damage and heals you for 2% maximum health when it damages a healthy enemy. Healthy is characters with more than 80% of their life, if you were curious. Combat Lunging Strikes. Critical strikes with Lunging Strikes grants you berserking for 1.5 seconds. Well, if we can apply that as often as possible, we get that bleeding damage bonus, and we get the stun damage, or the stun chance, so we want to be berserking all the time. Of course, Upheaval. Tear into the ground with your weapon and fling debris forward, dealing damage. I would say the damage number, but it will vary depending on your level and your items. Enhanced Upheaval. Upheaval has a 20% chance to stun all enemies it damages for 2.5 seconds. We take some passives later that help give us quite a bit of damage bonus based on if an enemy is stunned, so we want that as Violent Upheaval. If Upheaval damages at least 2 enemies, you gain berserking for 2 seconds, increased to 3 seconds if damaging at least 4 enemies. Now, there's a passive later on which we could switch this out for. Dealing direct damage to an enemy with a skill that is not Upheaval causes your next Upheaval cast to deal 3% increased damage, stacking up to 10 times. So, realistically, you would probably be getting, a 9% damage bonus often, but if you played your card rights, you could get all the way up to 30% increased damage. Now, I use Upheaval all the time, so having this berserking more often is way better. at least the way I play it. Next up we have Warcry, Bellow a Mighty Warcry, increasing your damage dealt by 18% for 6 seconds, and nearby allies for 3 seconds. Enhanced Warcry, Warcry grants you Berserking for 4 seconds. Warcry grants you 15% base life as Fortified. And like I said before, we need as much survivability as we can, because this is a very damage heavy build. So we don't need to take Power Warcry. We have plenty enough damage to kill everything in our path. Leap. Leap forward and then slam down, dealing 1200 damage and knocking back surrounding enemies on impact. Now remember, we have that aspect, so whenever we leap, we have an 80% chance for an Ancient to also leap. So this basically doubles the amount of damage that leap gets. That's why I don't have any points into it, other than that first point. Enhanced Leap. If Leap doesn't damage any enemies, its cooldown is reduced by 4 seconds. Honestly, I feel like that's such a lackluster passive, and I really wish they would switch that for one of these. Power Leap. If Leap damages at least one enemies, gain 40 Fury. Well, we need as much Fury generation as we can because we didn't take either Challenging Shout or Rallying Cry. Now down here we take Death Blow. Attempting a critical strike, or a killing strike, dealing damage to enemies in front of you. If this kills an enemy, its cooldown is reset. This is a huge, just fucking slam them down ability. We do take Enhanced Death Blow, deals 100% increased damage to bosses. Fighter's Death Blow. If Death Blow damages at least one enemy, gain 20 Fury. Now, if you're fine with the amount of Fury you're getting and you can manage your resource a little better than I, feel free to take Warrior's Death Blow. If Death Blow damages at least one enemy, gain Berserking for 3 seconds. Just to have all of that extra damage up more often. I have trouble managing all of that stuff, so that's why I take Fighter's Death Blow. Next up we have Call of the Ancients. Call upon 3 Ancients to aid you in battle for 6 seconds. Korlik leaps at enemies, dealing 3,816 damage, and swings his weapon in a frenzy, dealing 1,431 damage per hit. Talik spins in a whirlwind, rapidly attacking enemies for 2,385 damage. Modok upheaves the ground, dealing 7,156 damage. So just absolutely absurd damage numbers. If you call this on a boss and that's the only target, they will fucking destroy him. Prime Call of the Ancients. While Call of the Ancients is active, gain 20% bonus attack speed and 10% increased damage. It's huge buffs for us. Supreme Call of the Ancients. Each of the Ancients gains additional power. Korlik, you gain 10 Fury each time Korlik damages an enemy with his Frenzy. Talik, enemies are slowed by 50% for 1 second when damaged by his whirlwind. Modok, 30% chance to stun enemies for 3 seconds. I bit my tongue. 30% chance to stun enemies for 3 seconds when using Upheaval. So just massive boosts to us. Let's go ahead and go through the passives real quick. We have Pressure Point. Your core skills have up to a 30% chance to make enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds. Just a 30% chance to get more damage on them, basically. We take Aggressive Resistance. Gain 9% damage reduction while berserking. That helps with our survivability, and we're berserking 90% of the time. Pit Fighter. You deal 9% increased damage to close enemies and gain 6% distant damage reduction. That's a mouthful. I think that's good for every Barbarian build. I don't know why you wouldn't run Pit Fighter. No Mercy. You have 9% increased critical strike chance against immobilized, stunned, or slowed enemies. Well, we're stunning the shit out of everything, so just 9% increased critical strike chance. Slaying Strike. I love this for bosses. You won't notice it too much against regular enemies, and it does help whenever you're fighting elites, especially those tankier ones that are pretty annoying. You deal 23% increased damage against injured enemies. Injured characters have less than 35% of their life. So just a massive damage increase towards anything that survives long enough to be at that threshold. We take Heavy-Handed. While using a two-handed weapon, you deal 15% increased critical strike damage. huge. That's absolutely huge. I put 1 point into brute force. That was my 50th point. I didn't really know where to put it, so I thought, hey, you know, whenever we do overpower, that's probably the most efficient damage bonus we can get for this particular build, is a 15% increased damage. Wallop, your skills using bludgeoning weapons deal 15% increased damage if the enemy is stunned or vulnerable. Please let me know in the comments if this stacks. If an enemy is vulnerable and stunned, do you get 30% damage bonus? I don't know, and I'm not smart enough to figure it out, so please leave it down in the comments if it does. If it does, might be one of the strongest passives for this character. My favorite passive is Concussion. Skills using bludgeoning weapons have up to a 30% chance to stun enemies for 3 seconds, or up to a 45% chance when using a two-handed bludgeoning weapon. This is probably one of our biggest forms of survivability because nothing can hit you if everything's stunned. Next up, we take 1 point to Tempered Fury. We mostly just take it to get down here to Invigorating Fury, but that does give us 3 maximum Fury upgrade. Invigorating Fury, heal for 9% of your maximum life for each 100 Fury spent. Well, we're blowing through Fury like crazy, so having that. And obviously we have the Walking Arsenal, dealing direct damage with a two-handed bludgeoning, two-handed slashing, or two dual-wielding weapons grants 10% increased damage. Now, the way this next part is worded makes me think that it's two-handed bludgeoning, 10%, then two-handed slashing, 20, dual wield, 30. Is that how that works? Because it says or in the top part, but down here it says while all 3 damage bonuses are active, you gain additional 15%. So maybe I'm an idiot. I'm a little confused on the wording of this. But if it works the way I think it does, 45% increased bonus. And we did split our Death Blow is our axe, our Leap is our hammer, along with the Upheaval, and then Lunging Strikes is our dual wield. So basic combo would be lunge in with your lunge, throw an Upheaval, and then do a Death Blow, and then go Upheaval all the rest of the way. So yeah, I did want to mention that combo. If you really, it's kind of difficult to start engagements because you start with no Fury, and we don't have a great way to generate Fury, so I find... Now, I cut out the video just so I could correct my mistake here. The combo is going to be Leap, Lunging Strike, Death Blow, then Upheaval. I don't know what I was talking about here, but it's fucking wrong. So I cut the audio and fixed it here. So enjoy the rest of the video. So that was a mouthful, and I'm sure it was confusing, but I'm sure you're seeing it on the screen. Now, as far as our techniques go, we are still running the two-handed mace expertise. I was running with the two-handed sword expertise, dealing bleed damage, but that was until I got the imprint of whenever you deal direct damage while berserking, inflict 20% damage as additional bleeding damage. At that point, we no longer needed the extra bleeding damage from two-handed sword expertise, so we went back to our hammer, up to a 10% chance to gain 2 Fury when hitting an enemy, double the amount of Fury gained while berserking. We're berserking all the time, and so the extra Fury generation is massive. Berserking grants, also down here, if you don't know, Berserking grants 25% increased damage and 15% increased movement speed, so it can last up to 5 seconds, just in case you didn't know. Now, alternatively, you could run two-handed axe expertise, 15% increased I don't have it upgraded all the way, but it says at rank 10, additional bonus, increased critical strike chance against vulnerable enemies, on top of the damage to vulnerable enemies of 15%. That one is huge, but I feel like we're, with our Upheaval, which is our main core ability that will give us vulnerable, that's our only way to get vulnerable enemies, it just doesn't seem to proc enough. We don't have enough Fury generation to keep using it over and over and over again, And so I felt that we were just all around better off with the two-handed hammer expertise. So now, real quickly, I did want to mention because of our concussion passive, and I forgot to mention this in the actual build, so I'm going to throw it in randomly wherever it fits. It says skills using bludgeoning weapons have up to a 30% chance to stun enemies for 3 seconds. So you really want to have maces in your dual wield compartment. I only have one, the other I couldn't find a hammer that was better. So, I mean, we still get a little bit of that chance for having one of these, but you definitely want to have both. So I just thought I'd throw that in real quick. So enjoy the rest of the video. With all of that stuff out of the way, I guess we'll go ahead and go talk about the fashion. And we can also talk about some gems that would be beneficial for this build if you were wanting to min-max. I honestly don't see a good point in it right now. We're constantly leveling up and we're getting new gear all the time, so if you want to go min-max with gems, feel free. From what I think, you kill a lot of shit, you have a ton of damage. So you could either go with skull amulets on your weapons, or skull gems on your weapons and armor, so you can have 8 life on kill plus the 4% healing received. And if you have gem slots on all of your stuff, which I don't, because I'm managing all my stuff, because I'm trying to get every character up to level 50 and then boost everybody to level 100. So my resources are kind of low. But hammer or skull gems will help with your healing, because you're killing shit constantly and you're killing a lot of stuff at once. So you could probably be bouncing your health back up. Otherwise, I'm not sure if like these, the purple, green, red, and yellow and blue gems, they're really good versus one elemental resistance in your jewelry. But honestly, I feel like it's better overall to have the diamonds and everything, or all your jewelry, because you're not getting as much resistance, but you're getting it to every element. So, I mean, I guess if you were going into a dungeon and you knew that everything was doing fire damage, you'd be better with rubies, but honestly, I just think that it's not smart whenever you're going through multiple dungeons to do that. Now, as for your armors, you could take a couple of these. I struggle a lot with poison, so I could put the jewelry poison resistance. There's so many enemies that drop poison pools. I struggle with those. I think the damage over time reduction could be really nice. Maximum life, it's such a small percentage, but maybe it helps a ton. I'm not really certain. I'm not the guy to do this. I do think with how much we have no CC immunity except for that one aspect, having the damage reduction while control impaired would be extremely useful. But alternatively, if you wanted to have a little bit of synergy, we do have some ways to gain our fortify, so you could get the damage reduction on fortify. So I basically just told you could pick any of these. I haven't experimented enough with these to really know which ones are best. So as for our fashion, we have Boneweave Helm, Primal Breastplate, Boneweave Gauntlets, Sovereign Tassets, and Archon Greaves. As for our weapons, we went Penitent Hammer, mostly because it matches our colors. Double Axe, I think this one looks badass. I really wished you could change the color on some of your axes, because I like Great Axe better. I really like how it has that hammer end on it. But anywho, that's not important. We went Skull and Steel, and we have Octopian Edge. Now, honestly, you would benefit much more greatly from your passives that deal with bludgeoning weapons to have dual maces. I just haven't found any that are better than what I have right now, so that's why I don't have those. But I highly recommend getting in your dual slot, put bludgeoning weapons, so you can be stunning shit from your basic attacks. So if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, then don't. Either way it goes, though, have yourself a very fine day.